Hey everybody, Anthony with Archangel Racing here. As you guys are usually accustomed to, I usually do a race recap video and then put a bunch of descriptions underneath about our weekend and what all happened. I decided to try and change things up just a little bit. As most of you know, and I probably should have made it more known to my sponsors, after round 4 we had a 10-week break, and that was at the beginning of May, and we went into round 5, I would call it, for the side-by-sides, and that was at X-Factor up in Peru, Indiana, and we actually had a really good time up there. And as most of you know, if you don't know, I'll share it with you. Built a new motor for the car for 2018, and coming out into the start of the season at the Badlands in Attica, we were greatly disappointed. And it was a fully built BMP motor. I built the car myself, and it had the problems with the car had nothing to do with Bikeman whatsoever. The problems had to do because I built it wrong, and we could not figure out why the motor had no power, and we thought it was clutching issues. And I was working with Joey Strube over at Bikeman throughout the season, the first half of the season, and by the end of the first half of the season, we finally figured out what it was. And it was actually, I got some bad information from a salvage parts dealer over in Illinois, I do believe it was. He was telling me that the only difference between a 900S and a 1000S was the rods, pistons, and cylinder. Well, that is not the case, and I hope everybody watching this will take this and put it in their back pocket, because there is a massive difference between the 900 and the 1000 crank. So basically, what I did is I took my 900S, 2015 900S, and I converted it over to a 1000S, because I was honestly tired of trying to be the hero and with a small motor, and I was just gravely out horsepowered all the time. So that's why I ended up doing this project to begin with. So at the end of the first half of the season, back at the beginning of May, I got a hold of Joey Strube over at Bikeman Performance, and I said, look dude, this is everything I've done. Went through every single step, told him every single part I had, and that's when I found out I had the wrong crank, and my gut just dropped to the floor, because I had so much money wrapped up in this motor and whatnot. But I was like, okay, well, I honestly thought that my personal season was over. We went through the 10-week break, and towards the end of the 10-week break, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna do videos for the team, for everybody else, promote IXCR, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going anyway. I'm just gonna load my car up and take it. You know what, if nothing else, it's gonna be an oversized go-kart, right? So I get out there and I'm like, there's no way I can't race. I don't care if I make one lap. I want to be out on the track. So I did, and I actually finished the race. It was pretty rough. The car was overheating about every 5 minutes, and I had to pull off, let it cool down, and but we did. We finished the race. I think we ended up, gosh, I want to say 8th place or something like that, which I guess isn't too terribly bad considering. But after that, I was actually able to scrounge up the money, and it was a choice between pouring concrete around my back pool deck here, because it needs more concrete, or I could go ahead and get my car fixed. Well, I decided to go ahead and get my car fixed. I apologize to all the Archangel Racing subscribers. I know I did not produce a video for X-Factor. Honestly, I'm not really sure. I have some footage of it. I don't know if I got enough footage to make a video. I am going to look into maybe doing like a backlog video or something for it. But when we got done with that race, I took the car home. I ordered all the parts for that to fix that motor the very next day, and from Part Shark. And I want to shout out to Part Shark. They did an amazing job getting me all those parts. I had all the parts that I needed for that motor rebuild in 4 days. It was amazing. And You know, we ended up pulling the motor out of that car, having it completely tore down, and putting all the parts back in it, put back together and ready to start in less than a week and a half. And that let me tell you, I know if you guys have like a full-fledged shop, it's not that big of a deal, but me personally, I live in a subdivision and I've got a 2-car garage, and it can be tough at times, but we did it and we were meticulous about it. And Joey Struve over at Bikeman, man, he gave me all kinds of pointers on how to set the thing up, doing a fresh build from the get-go. And I actually was able to go, I got it back together so fast that I actually had a week ahead of time and weekend ahead of time before the next race, this past one here, and I was able to go do some testing, and oh my gosh, I'm glad I did, because I was able to do some shakedowns, and I found a few little gremlins, and we got them for the most part taken care of before race day. Now, going up to race day, we were really excited about this past weekend over at Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible is actually a property that's backed up to the Badlands, which, as most of you know, that it is our first race of the year is at the Badlands. This property is literally backed up to it, and I tell you, we didn't know really what to expect, but we had high hopes. And the only 2 team cars that were racing that day was myself and fellow team driver Rick Fitzgerald. He's in a 1000S also. Bruce Barnum, he was there, but he's probably done for the season. He was there, but he didn't bring his car because he's got some major issues with a clutch actuator on his YXZ. He's got the sport shifter car. He keeps getting air in the line somehow in the clutch actuator line, and it keeps throwing the computer way out of whack. And we're trying to figure that out, but he may be done for the rest of the season with that car. If he comes back, he's hoping maybe just for fun. He's definitely out of points contention, maybe the last race at Rock Run. However, me and Rick, we got down there, and Rick bobbled on the start, and I got a really great start. The car just really performed exactly how I was hoping it would, you know. And we got, I think I was 3rd into the woods. We were really holding our own, and by the time we got around to the end of the first lap, we were sitting in 3rd place. I was really excited and really happy, and it's a rough track, man. Anybody that knows the tracks at Mission Impossible or the Badlands, you know it's a lot of rock, a lot of sand, it's all whooped out, it's rough, a lot of clay. It'll beat you to death. But we were doing really good, and I think it was about halfway through the 2nd lap, I had Brandon Monsell on my butt. He's running an XP 1000. He just started racing this year, and actually him and my sister's his co-pilot, and they were on my butt. They were putting pressure on me. We had I thought a pretty good decent battle going there for a minute, and he put one really slick move on me, and I saw him get around me, and I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do about that. And I was like, I'm gonna just try and chase him back down and get back around him. And Mission Impossible, man, we had a lot of rain on Thursday night. I shouldn't say a lot of rain. It was a good amount of rain. I mean, we haven't had rain for a while here in Indiana, and it was great. We thought track conditions were going to be just absolutely amazing all weekend long, and come to find out, everything was great until about mid-afternoon Saturday. The track conditions were perfect in the woods, but out in the field area, it had totally freaking dried up. It was a dust bowl. And I was really trying to push hard to chase him down and get around him before we got out into the open field, because at that point, you're driving blind, completely blind. There's no depth perception. Most of you guys already know that when you're racing in the dust. But he beat me out to the open field, and I basically had to almost completely slow down to a stop until the dust cleared and I could start seeing silhouettes of things, and then I took off again. I was able to catch up to him again that following lap, and it was a race to try and catch up to him, get around him, and beat him out to the open field. And once again, I was within 20-30 feet of him, and I couldn't make it happen in time, and he beat me out into the field, and here we go again, can't see. So at that point, I just started, there was nobody even close to being behind me, so I just backed off because I wasn't having any fun. I was eating dust, and I'm like, all right. So I kind of backed off just a little bit, started getting laxed, and I was in 4th place. Yeah, I was in 4th place at that point in the heavy limited class, and I think we did lap 3 and lap 4 like that, and on lap 5, I was, I guess, a little too lax because I had settled into a nice cruise pace. I was just cruising through it, trying not to beat the car up, just trying to make it to the finish, and I hear another Razor coming up behind me. And for those of you that don't know Mitch Wofford, he's the only guy out on the track that's got a white cage. And I heard a Razor coming up behind me, and I looked in my mirror, and all I saw was the white cage, and I'm like, oh crap, it's Mitch. So I basically found a whole nother gear that I never had before, because I knew he was out to beat me. That boy's out to win, period. And I had to really pick up the pace, and that last lap, we actually were able to stay ahead of him. We bumped a couple times, and I knew if I beat him out to the open field section, which is just before the finish line, it was almost a guaranteed thing that I was going to be ahead of him. At this point, and I didn't know it, somehow I think somebody may have broke down, because we actually went through the finish in 3rd place and took 6th overall, and Mitch was, I mean, he was within feet behind me. I mean, just probably less than 12 feet behind me. So it ended up being a pretty great day. The only thing that we did, you know, is we landed our front right tire on a stone on lap 3 and didn't even know it, but we had blew the tire out, and it didn't even have any adverse effects on the car. That's why I was pretty amazed that the car didn't start handling weird. And Dwight, I know it would be great if I had your tire spines in there, because we are sponsored by you, but I didn't. I'm the only one on the team that hasn't been able to get a hold of some, and that's due to my finances, but it is coming. The only thing I had in there was some Dora the Explorer Wally balls, and oh my gosh, Dora kind of saved my butt that day. But they are all popped. I pulled the tire off and took a peek inside, and there's 28 of those things inside one tire, and I think there's probably about 13, 14 of them that are popped. So it's amazing that I was able to even pick up the pace like I did. And like I said, I can't wait to get tire spines in my car, because I probably could have drove the car even harder. Let's get to Rick Fitzgerald. He, like I said earlier, he bobbled just a little bit on the start, and he was coming up through the backpack, and he was making some moves, making some passes. He was doing really good, making his way up through the field, and there's this little section that they drop us down into a creek, and it literally winds back and forth like a snake, really tight, really rocky, and that's actually where I blew my tire. There was some ledges that you could go over and drop back down in, instead of doing the windy snake trail through the creek. And he actually went up over that, and there was a backup, and he was trying to back up, got a little bit too excited and missed his reverse gear, and instead of waiting for the engine RPMs to come back down, he just yanked it back into gear. And we're pretty sure, we're not sure yet, because we're pulling that the transmission out tomorrow, but we're pretty sure he broke his reverse chain in his Razor. So that really made things difficult on him. He lost a lot of positions on that, and then he just tried to make up time after that, being careful not to get himself into a situation that he was going to have to back up, because he couldn't do it if he wanted to unless somebody pushed him backwards. So he did pretty good though. He came back to, I want to say, to get 8th in class and 13th overall. Pretty sure that's what it was. Don't quote me on that, but all in all, it was a really great weekend. And like I said, I wanted to give a huge shout out to all my sponsors. You know, Bikeman Performance, Part Shark, Flat Out, Zebros Racing, Amsoil, Slick Products, OMF Wheels. I'll tell you right now, testament to OMF Wheels. We were, like I said, on rocky terrain. I had a flat tire, didn't know it, and that tire held up. I inspected it as soon as I got back to the trailer. No, you can't. I don't think you can really severely hurt those tires. They just keep on going, or those rims. I'm sorry. But then you got tire spines. Super Dave bushings. Super Dave's has been a huge help to us over the past 3 weeks. He's helped us out with some new bushings for one of our old race cars that we're getting back onto the track. That would be Doug Wilson's 800S. He's wanting to kind of get that car back out there and join back in the fun. And you know, you got Engine Ice. Engine Ice has been helping us out with coolant for these motors, and they've saved my motor. Like I said last race, I mean, I overheated my car 9 times, and when I pulled it apart, nothing was hurt. No stuck rings, no hot spots in the cylinder, nothing. It was great. GBC tires, GoPro's been hooking us up great this year. We got 100% for all of our roll-off systems, and then you've got Fly products for all of our jerseys and our helmets and gloves and all that, and they've been a big help this year. And I am looking forward to doing some more videos, and if you guys like this type of race recap, just let me know, and I'll continue doing some more of them like this, or I can just go back to doing only my race recap videos and then putting some info underneath about how the weekend went. So to all of my sponsors and everybody that follows Archangel Racing, thanks for supporting us, and stay tuned to see what the season brings for the rest of the year.